Clear prop.
Star 738, Yankee number 2, following twin traffic, 3 mile final, clear Sutton. 1 Charlie Bravo, exit in runway 25, going 4 mile final.
This is Behind the Prop with United Flight Systems owner and licensed pilot Bobby Doss and his co-host, Major Airline Captain and designated pilot examiner Wally Mulhern. Now let's go Behind the Prop.
What's up, Wally?
Hey, Bobby, how are you?
I am fantastic as always. This week is another episode that we're going to incorporate some Checkride stuff, so I'm sure all of those future Checkride applicants are going to be interested in this show. We're going to talk about really the outcomes of a Checkride, the possible outcomes of a Checkride, and some mysteries that I don't think all applicants know about, but probably should know about, and hopefully maybe ease some nerves and take away some of the unknowns about a Checkride. So let's get started. Wally, how many Checkrides have you done this week?
I think I've done 6. Is it 6
Checkrides, and we're kind of at the end of the week. That's
a
lot. And you were in Germany when we recorded about 5 days ago, so lots of time in the air.
Yeah,
for sure. And no one listening has done 6 Checkrides unless they're DPs listening, right? But I mean, we as applicants, as pilots, as wannabe commercial pilots, we're going to do 4 Checkrides over probably an 18-month period of time.
Yeah.
If we do private, instrument, commercial, and CFI. Then we might not do another Checkride till we get our ATP. In some cases, maybe we do multi-engine, I guess, and then ATP. But we might not do 6 Checkrides in the first 3 years of our aviation career, and you're doing them all the time. And so you're uniquely aware of a lot of things that maybe we're not aware of. So let's kick it off with really what are the outcomes? What are the potential outcomes of a Checkride? I'm a student pilot, means I'm working on my private. I come to you, we're sitting down, we start the Checkride. What are the 3 things, 4 things what might end my day there?
Yeah, this question came from a listener, and it really kind of grounded me to go back and say, you know what? There are some very basic things that again I deal with. I've dealt with. I've given this speech 6 times this week, and most people haven't heard it. So what we're going to talk about is once we walk in the door and we start a Checkride. There are really 3 possible outcomes. I mean, I guess not even doing the Checkride is an outcome as well. I mean, we could just, for whatever reason, decide that we can't do the Checkride. But once we start the Checkride, before we even start a Checkride, we have to qualify 3 things. First of all, I myself have to be qualified to do the Checkride. So we're going to assume that based on the fact that I've shown up that I am qualified. The second thing we have to do is we have to qualify the applicant. So I need to go through and make sure that the applicant has a government-issued photo ID, has the proper pilot certificates, has the proper medical certificates, has the proper logbook endorsements, and, of course, has the proper flight time and the knowledge test results. And so going through all that may take 20 to 30 minutes. Then after that, we have to qualify the airplane. So we have to make sure that we do, in fact, have an airworthy airplane, has all the required inspections and all the documents and everything. So once all 3 of those have been met, we will log into IACRA, we will sign the application, and at that point, the test has begun, or the Checkride has begun. So once we start, there has to be basically a resolution of the Checkride. And again, the 3 possible outcomes is the number one, the one that we both want, is that at the end of the Checkride, a certificate or a new rating is issued. And for just this purpose, let's say we have a student pilot who is applying for a private pilot certificate. So we do the ground portion, we go out, we get in the airplane, we fly, and we come back in, and everything is satisfactory. So a private pilot certificate will be issued at that point. The temporary certificate will be issued to the applicant. That temporary is good for 120 days, and probably in about 7 weeks or so, you'll get a permanent plastic credit card type certificate in the mail from the FAA, and that's always a really fun day. And to make that certificate valid, you need to flip it over and sign the back, and now that is now your pilot certificate. I will say this, I probably know fairly well maybe 20, 25 pilot examiners. There's not one that I know that doesn't want all of their applicants to pass. So I can't speak to all the examiners across the United States, but my assumption is that the applicant is going to do well and they're going to pass because they've been recommended by the CFI. I trust the system. And lo and behold, the vast majority of applicants do pass. So, I can't imagine that there's an examiner out there that's out to get anybody. So, I just want to put everybody at ease. There's rumors about quotas. Well, if there are quotas, I've never heard it. And I've never had anybody from the FAA say anything to me about the number of applicants that are passing versus failing or anything like that.
And when I was a cop, everybody said the same thing. There has to be quotas, and there weren't quotas. And matter of fact, if there were quotas, all the officers would have sued the county or sued the city because it would have been unjust, unfair, and it would have freed them up even more so, right? So,
right.
I don't suspect there's quotas for sure.
Right. Now, you can go back and say over the last, pick a time period, over the last 20 years, how many check rides have happened over the country. So there's data that we can look at, and you could see where you fall in line with the data. But again, I've never heard anything about a quota.
I think you've mentioned your numbers before, haven't you? Like you're in the 85 percentile range of passing.
Yeah,
first attempt, something like that.
Somewhere in that range. So after that's the number one outcome we both want. We want to be done today and a new certificate issued. Second possible outcome is a disapproval notice, and that means the check ride was unsatisfactory. So let's walk through what happens in this situation. So during the ground portion or the flight, if the standard is not met on one of the tasks, the check ride will be unsatisfactory. Now, unfortunately, on a check ride, you don't get multiple chances. You don't get 4 or 5 chances for that short field landing or whatever maneuver we're talking about. So it's very possible that one of the maneuvers is unsatisfactory, and the examiner will tell you that, okay, that did not meet the standard. The check ride is going to be unsatisfactory. And in a lot of cases, the examiner will give you the option to go ahead and continue the check ride to finish the other maneuvers. And it's your call. You can say, no, I'd rather go back and be done today, or yeah, let's go ahead and try to finish the rest of the maneuvers. And people act different ways. Some people, it actually takes some of the pressure off of them, and they actually perform very well. Others not so much. So that's something, a call that you will have to make. But what happens now? Okay, so now you come back and you are issued a notice of disapproval, an unsatisfactory check ride. First of all, it's not the end of the world. Okay. It's not the end of a career. If you desire a career as a professional pilot, it's not. Will a notice of disapproval come up in a job interview? Very possibly. But are there ways to answer the question? If an interview asks you about it, absolutely. And I think if you just step up to the plate and say, hey, yeah, I blew the circling approach. I got below minimums, and I was not in a position to make a landing, so I had to reject the landing. I'm not in a position to interview, and I don't know how interviews would take it, but I think we've all been in a position like that. We've all messed up in an airplane, and hopefully it wasn't to the point of hurting, bending an airplane or hurting any people. So I think the interviewer would appreciate the candidness if you just say, "Hey, I messed up." But anyway, quite honestly, that does not cross the mind of the examiner. At least it doesn't cross my mind. I'm looking at, did the applicant meet the standard? And if the answer is no, then it's an unsatisfactory outcome.
So quick, one of the things that I think is a mystery to me is, all right, and maybe listeners, we sit down and we're talking. You ask me a few questions. We've qualified the aircraft. You've qualified me. You asked me a few things about weather, and then you asked me a few things about maybe the documents that are required, etc. And then I just start answering things completely wrong. I clearly don't know any more than those first 10 minutes of our oral exam. What does the unsat thing say? Because it doesn't say I'm not a good flyer of the plane. Like, how do I know what I really have to finish up?
Yeah, the notice of disapproval will have on there what you need to repeat. Okay, what needs to be completed to finish the check ride. Now, the good news about a disapproval notice is you will, when you come back, you're only responsible as long as you come back within 60 days. That's the operative, 60 days. As long as you come back within 60 days, you're only responsible for what was unsatisfactory or what did not get completed on the initial check ride. So it's very possible that you could go out, come in, and the ground portion goes really well, and then you get out and the first maneuver in the flight does not go well, and you elect to stop the flight. Well, when you come back for your next check ride, you're only responsible for the flight portion. The ground portion is complete, so you don't need to retake the entire test. Now, if it turns into 61 days, you have to start all over again. Now, I do say that 60-day window that you get does not extend any of the other things that might expire. For instance, you might have a medical that's about to expire. You may have knowledge test results that are about to expire. You might have a Part 141 graduation certificate that has an expiration. The annual on the airplane, all those still have to be valid. So if you got, it's not unusual for maybe we're doing a check ride on May 5th, and on May 31st, the applicant's knowledge test results expire because it's been 2 years. They would still have to complete the check ride by May 31st.
Can they just retake the knowledge test, though?
Oh, yeah.
Still, the 60 days is still good? So knowledge test doesn't reset my practical test?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's correct. Yes.
Lots of testing there. But
yeah.
But so maybe I blow the first maneuver and I say, Wally, I understand that this is a disapproval. I'd like to still go out and work on some stuff. And you agree, and we go work on everything. And I'm trying to hypothetically come up with this. Maybe I didn't do a good short field takeoff, which is what really got me on the beginning of the ride. Did everything else really well. And then I failed with turns around a point. Does the disapproval say has to do short field takeoff again and turns around a point, or
yes.
Is it higher level than that?
No, it would say both. It would say everything that needs to be reproved.
But it doesn't say low work and takeoffs and landings. It literally says he needs to demonstrate a short field takeoff and he needs to demonstrate turns around a point.
Yeah, it really depends on how the DPE goes in and how much detail. You can put as much detail as you want. You can get in. I could just do a whole task, and then I can go in and actually put in individual things. So it that's an it depends answer.
When you say task, you mean ACS task, right?
Right.
So
Right.
people keep that ACS close, and you can get more granular than the whole task, or you could say the whole task.
Right. So the bottom line is, an unsatisfactory check ride certainly is not the end of the world. Okay, and a lot of times it's a wake up call to people. It's like, oh boy. I remember it at my airline job, getting in an airplane one day. I was captain on the 737, and I walked in and I introduced myself to the first officer, and he said, "Yeah, we met a few years ago. You busted me on a check ride." And I thought, oh boy. And I said, well, are we good to fly together? He says, yeah, we're good to fly together. That was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I deserved it. And I went, wow. And we ended up getting great. It was a great couple of days of flying with this guy. So, it can be a wake-up call. I think we've all had those aha moments. I mean, I can go back and remember when I did something that I wasn't supposed to do, and my father looked at me and told me that I disappointed him, and I thought, wow, that really hurt. I don't want to ever do that again. Mm-hmm. So, we've all had those moments. The next thing I would say is now, in the case of a notice of disapproval, the next check ride is considered a new check ride. So you are going to need a new IACRA application. You're also going to need new logbook endorsements from your CFI. So it is considered a new check ride. The next check ride can be with any examiner. It doesn't have to be with the first examiner. And there might be a personality issue where maybe you would think you would be better served by going to somebody else. And I've had it happen. I've had applicants unsatisfactory, and they end up going to someone else. And I've also picked up people who have been unsat from other examiners and completed the check ride with me. So that's perfectly within your rights to do that.
Talking percentages wise, though, what's the real percentage there? Is that
it doesn't really happen very much.
5%?
It doesn't happen very much. I mean, pretty much, you do build a rapport, and usually, there's a respect for the examiner and the applicant. You may not say, gee, that's someone I want to go out to dinner with, but, you do build a rapport, and I think that's important. So the vast majority of people come back to the same examiner. The third possible outcome is a letter of discontinuance. Now, a letter of discontinuance is basically an incomplete. Think of maybe a class in college that for whatever reason you got an incomplete in. There are probably the typical reasons for a discontinuance would be weather. All right, we come in, and now let me go back and say this. The guidance from the FAA is that we are not supposed to begin a check ride unless we can reasonably expect to finish it in the same day. So I can't come out here and say, yeah, the weather is horrible, let's go ahead and start the check ride, and we'll come back another day and finish. I can't do that. The other side of that is we have to have an airworthy airplane. So I can't come out and say, yeah, the airplane's out there, the wing is off of it, it's going to get put on next week, but we'll go ahead and do the ground portion today. I can't do that. Do
you have any reason why you think that is? I mean, do you have any gut instinct on why that is?
I don't know. There was some.
I know why you wouldn't fly a plane without a wing on it.
Yeah. No, there was some thought that the FAA may relax that a little bit and let us do, just schedule ground portions one day. I mean, because you might have. It's not unusual for me to have 2 check rides today and 2 check rides tomorrow. The weather is horrible today. It's supposed to be great tomorrow. Could I do 4 grounds today and 4 flights tomorrow? I could. I mean, it would be a long day. A 2 check ride day is a long day. But hypothetically, I could do 4 grounds today and I could do 4 flights tomorrow. But the FAA doesn't allow us to schedule it that way. But anyway, the reasons for a discontinuance, again, the one that is probably most popular is weather. Second one is a mechanical malfunction of the airplane. We get out and we can't get it started. Well, that's a problem. Okay, so we come in and we discontinue. The other one is sickness. Either the examiner gets sick or the applicant gets sick. And so those are the 4 probably most popular. I mean, I guess it could be as simple as someone gets a phone call from home and said, hey, there's an emergency. The hot water heater just exploded. The house is flooding. Okay, well, that might be a reason to stop the check ride and go home. And in a discontinuance, you have now bought yourself 60 days. And again, it does not extend any of the other expirable things, the annual on the airplane, your medical, your knowledge test results, or anything like that. It just buys you 60 days. Now, the thing about a discontinuance is when we come back and actually fly or pick up where we left off, it is not considered a new check ride. So no new I application is required. No new logbook endorsement is required. Now, it would behoove you to keep flying. I don't think it'd be a good idea for a private pilot candidate to come in and on day 59 come in and do their private pilot check ride and not have been in an airplane for the last 60 days. But I guess it's possible. And again, with a discontinuance, it does not have to be with the original examiner. It can be with a different examiner. It's unusual for that to happen, but there are situations where the original is not able to finish it, and so forth. And the one thing I would say is, don't wait to day 58 and call up an examiner and say, hey, I turned into a pumpkin day after tomorrow. Try to get this thing done as quickly as possible.
I've been saying this a lot lately. Someone else's lack of planning is not my emergency.
Right.
And I'm sure you feel that way fairly regularly as well. Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh, Wally, this just snuck up on me. I didn't realize it was 58 days since we last spoke. And
right.
Please, you do everything for me, Wally, because I didn't do everything for you.
Right.
Very immature and very much not my emergency.
Yeah.
All good stuff. I think I just read an article recently, kind of the 4 things your DP wants you to know, and we've covered a lot of them, but a couple that we didn't cover is, yes, you want us to succeed. What about impressing you during this oral exam? Is that possible? Can I impress you? Is that what I should be thinking about doing?
No, I sometimes I do feel like the applicant is trying to put on a show, and what I tell the applicant is, I want you to answer the question the way you think you should answer it. I don't want you to answer the question the way you think I want you to answer it, if that makes sense. Just answer the question. What would you do in this scenario? What would you do?
I can remember clearly I was probably trying to – I don't think I was trying to impress, because I was smart enough to know I'm not going to be a better pilot than this man across from me when I did my private check ride today, for sure. But I also really did not understand how much experience that person had. And just to put it in perspective for everybody out there listening, we've said this solo date many times. You soloed 40 years ago. How many different aircraft do you think you've flown?
Oh boy, aircraft types. 40, 50?
40 or 50 different types.
Yeah.
And then how many different Cessna 172s have you been in? Like in that you've flown and landed in because you were on a check ride or
Yeah.
friends and planes?
I'd say 40 or 50 probably.
40 or 50 Cessnas.
Right.
40 or 50 different
Yeah.
types of aircraft.
Yeah.
40 Warriors.
Yeah.
40 multi-engines.
Yeah.
Just that list goes on and on.
Right.
Doesn't, I think it might intimidate some of us newer pilots. Like if you said, hey, jump in this plane and go fly it, that doesn't intimidate you because
Right.
10 minutes in, a couple logbooks, you're comfortable taking off in that plane.
Yeah.
Us rookies, sub 500 hour guys aren't that way, right? You've been flying professionally for your major airline for 34 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
You've done 600 plus check rides, 700. How many?
Yeah, about 750.
Okay, 750 check rides. Like the experience level and the should I file an alternate is like so second nature to you, the answer to that question, that no one's going to be able to just verbally impress you with their new way to file an alternate.
Right.
I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
their new acronym's not going to blow you away. Their little cheat sheet on their fingernails aren't going to blow you away. Like nothing's new going to excite you, right?
Right.
So people, don't try to impress your DPE. Right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna.
Yeah, just ask the question. Just answer the question.
Yeah. It's funny. That's the second or the third thing in this is just answer the question. Like you're not going to impress them. And then we say this all the time. Number 4 on this article that I read literally says the ACS covers everything you need to know.
It does.
And it really does. It's shocking that so few people really dive into the ACS, but the Airman Certification Standards booklet for your check ride is literally everything you need to know.
It is. And I tell this during the brief before every check ride. I say, I doubt when we're done, I doubt you will say, wow, I wasn't expecting that. I have never had anybody at least say it to my face. Maybe they say it after I leave. Gee, he had me do this and I wasn't expecting it. Now, the order in which we do it, but I mean, if you come, I mean, I just did a multi-engine check ride this morning. If the young man at the end would have said, gee, I'm really surprised you had me shut down an engine and restart it, I would say, what planet are you on? What have you been smoking?
VMC? What?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. And that's what I told him. I said, everything we're going to do.
Yep. Just maybe not the order or the way you might request it. I've said this story 1,000 times. You made me do a partial panel VOR approach in my instrument check ride, and I had never done one. So I was like, huh. Now, I didn't say what type of partial panel. We had just practiced another type very, very often.
Right.
But I was trained well enough, and I pulled it off. So it was not it wasn't brand new information. It was just a brand new ask, I guess.
Yeah. And try not to be too predestined. I mean, I'm not stupid. I know as soon as I leave a flight school, the flight instructors are descending on the applicant saying, what do you have you do? Where'd you go? What'd you do? And, I mix things up. And quite honestly, a lot of times we get out in the airplane and I really don't know, or I may have a plan. I think I will go over here and do this, but because of ATC, maybe we can't go over there. Okay,
or a disabled aircraft on that runway.
Exactly.
Or the winds are blowing the wrong way.
Exactly.
There's lots of reasons you could change things up.
People call me all the time and say, hey, we got an instrument check ride tomorrow. What 3 approaches can I expect? And I said, well, I'm not going to tell you because I could tell you 3 approaches right now, but the winds are different tomorrow, or this certain approach at this airport is out of service, and now we got to come up with plan C. And so, I don't want you to have a preconceived notion of what we're doing.
Yeah, I think the day that we did my ride, you kind of just, in the briefing, we said we're going east. We'll probably go to Cleveland and come back this direction, but I didn't even know what airports at that point, really and truly, I don't think. And when we left the check ride room.
Yeah.
Obviously, anxiety is a big part of it. We talked about that a lot on other shows. What other mysteries can you share with those people that only do few check rides to someone who's done 700 plus?
I just, have confidence in the system, have confidence in your CFI. Your CFI, there's always the CFI's first person to sign off for a check ride. But you're probably not. Your CFI has probably signed off many people. They probably have a little bit of a relationship with the examiner. They probably, will tell you something about the examiner. They'll tell you what they like for breakfast. The young man today brought kolaches, which I appreciated. But no, seriously, we're all. I tell some of my applicants I'm their biggest cheerleader. I want them to do well, and it's very rewarding for me to be a small part of their whole learning process or their certification process, whatever you want to call it. And I say small part because the CFI is really the shining star here. It's not me. I mean, I get to maybe take the picture and get my face posted on social media, but it's the CFI that should be up there because they're the ones who did the work, not me.
Right. And I think we as applicants sometimes forget that too because it's a big milestone, but don't forget to thank a CFI today for all their hard work, all their hot days, all their reteaching the same thing, all their back and forths on the same heading that you can't hold and everything else that we've all screwed up.
Yeah.
The wide open field just on the other side of that airport is not the best place to land, right? They've probably heard that and seen that thousands of times.
Yeah.
And tricked thousands of people by being right over a grass strip that none of us knew was right below us.
Yeah.
So thank you, CFI, as well. Well, that's a good show, Wally. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy hearing about some of those mysteries that are taken away, probably ease some anxiety, no matter who you're taking your check ride with. I think you have the chance to be successful. The DP wants you to be successful on that very special day. Hopefully you get to go fly. If you do, fly safely and stay behind the prop.
Thanks for checking out the Behind the Prop podcast. Be sure to click subscribe and check us out online at BehindTheProp.com. Behind the Prop is recorded in Houston, Texas. Creator and host is Bobby Doss. Co-host is Wally Mulhern. The show is for entertainment purposes only and is not meant to replace actual flight instruction. Thanks for listening, and remember, fly safe.